Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really plunging into something, well, quite significant unfolding within South Africa's criminal justice system.
Significant is definitely the word for it.
Yeah, it's all come to light from a recent, very detailed news briefing. And our mission really is to try and unpack these striking allegations.
Allegations about a sophisticated criminal syndicate apparently reaching very high levels.
Exactly. And also the deeply controversial disbandment of a crucial investigative unit.
And, our main source here is that comprehensive briefing given by Dalanla MKHWANAZI. He's the provincial commissioner for KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay.
And the information that came out there, well, it's pretty notable. It hints at this network of influence.
The network touching individuals you'd hope would be beyond reproach.
Precisely. It really puts the integrity of the whole justice system under a spotlight. It's a critical moment for understanding what might be happening.
Okay, let's unpack this then. At the absolute heart of this situation, there's this unit, right?
Yeah.
The Political Killings Task Team, or PKTT.
That's the one.
And like the name suggests, they were set up specifically to tackle these politically motivated murders, a really sensitive issue in South Africa.
Extremely sensitive. And their origins, they go back to May 2018. That's when President Ramaphosa actually established an interministerial committee, the IMC.
Right, the IMC. I remember that.
Yeah, it involved ministers from police, state security, defense, justice. And their job was basically to look into security concerns around political leaders, specifically in KwaZulu-Natal.
Because there was an issue there, wasn't there?
Yeah.
With the previous team.
Exactly. They reviewed an earlier task team, and the IMC found it was, well, their words were, working in silos.
Not good.
Not good at all. Also compromised, and critically, it didn't have a proper investigation plan or a prosecutorial plan, so not much was getting done.
Okay, so ineffective, basically.
Pretty much. So the IMC decided, this is July 2018, to make a change. They established this new team, the PKTT.
And this one was different.
Very different. It was nationally integrated, multidisciplinary. So you had the police, SAPS, working directly with the National Prosecuting Authority, the MPA. And they were supported by state security and correctional services, too, a proper joint effort.
Okay, sounds much more robust.
And their performance, well, it was frankly remarkable.
How so? What did they achieve?
Okay, get this. They investigated a total of 612 case dockets.
612, wow.
Yeah, covering murders, attempted murders, intimidation, conspiracy to commit murder, the whole range.
Serious stuff.
Very serious. And they made 436 arrests.
436 suspects arrested.
And recovered 156 firearms. Significantly, 55 of those guns were ballistically linked directly to political cases.
So they were getting the right people with the right evidence.
It certainly seems so. And interestingly, 35 SAPS members, police officers, were also arrested as part of these investigations.
Wow. Cleaning house within the ranks, too.
That's what it looks like. And the results in court. 128 accused found guilty. Across 106 separate cases. And the sentences handed down totaled, wait for it, 1,081 years of imprisonment.
Over 1,000 years.
Including 29 life sentences.
That is an absolutely extraordinary track record.
It really is. And their mandate even grew, They started investigating killings of traditional leaders in KZN as well, and even murders at the University of Fort Hare over in the Eastern Cape.
So this wasn't just some average unit. This was a highly effective, proven team tackling incredibly difficult, dangerous work and actually getting convictions.
A bulwark, as you said earlier, achieving tangible results.
Which makes what happens next just baffling.
Baffling, concerning, yeah. Their success really throws the subsequent events into sharp relief. It makes you ask, why on earth would you disrupt something working so well?
Exactly. So despite this incredible track record, we then see this really dramatic, abrupt turn, the sudden, highly controversial disbandment of the Political Killings Task Team. How did that actually happen?
Well, the timeline is quite specific. On March 26, 2025.
Okay, so fairly recently.
Yes. On that day, 121 case dockets, active investigations by the PKTT were just taken away, unexpectedly.
Take it away.
By whom? The action was directed by a Deputy National Commissioner of Crime Detection, Lieutenant General CIA, and reportedly he was acting on instructions directly from the Minister of Police.
From the minister himself.
That's the report. But here's the crucial part. According to MKHWANAZI's briefing, This was done without the authority of the national commissioner.
Wait, the head of the entire police service didn't authorize this?
Apparently not. And significantly, the provincial commissioner, Mr. MKHWANAZI, the head of police in KZN where the team was primarily focused, he wasn't informed either.
So a deputy national commissioner, supposedly on the minister's orders, pulls active cases from a top-performing unit, bypassing both the national commissioner and the provincial commissioner.
That's the picture painted in the briefing. And apparently these dockets, these 121 case files, have just been sitting at head office ever since. No investigative work being done on them.
Just sitting there. Active cases.
Correct. And get this, 5 of those dockets actually had instructions already included to arrest the perpetrators.
Arrest warrants essentially ready to go.
Instructions to arrest, yes. But no action was taken because the dockets were pulled.
Unbelievable. So what's left of the team then?
Only 112 dockets remain with them now. And those are mostly cases already in court, or the ones related to those expanded mandates, like the traditional leaders, or Fort Hare. The core political killing investigations seem to have been gutted.
It really is puzzling. I mean, to pull active files like that, critical cases, from such a successful unit, and apparently without proper authorization, it just screams, well, it raises serious questions about what's really going on.
About the motive, yeah.
Yeah.
And about the implications for justice in those specific cases. And, trust in the whole system.
Definitely.
And that mystery, that why, it starts to become a bit clearer, perhaps, when you look at the context, the crucial background to this disbandment.
Okay. What was that?
It turns out that PKTT, the KZN-based team, had actually deployed 10 of its members. They sent them to assist the Hoang Organized Crime Investigating Unit. That's in Gauteng province.
Okay, so helping out another province's unit on organized crime.
Exactly. And their task was specifically to help dismantle a major organized crime syndicate operating there in Hoang.
Ah, okay. So what did this joint investigation, this Hoang investigation, actually uncover? What was so significant about that work?
Well, according to MKHWANAZI's briefing, what they uncovered was profound. I think that's the word.
Profound how?
The investigation apparently unmasked a syndicate.
Right.
A syndicate that allegedly involves, and this is the shocking part, politicians who are currently serving in Parliament.
Serving politicians
Okay.
in Parliament, allegedly part of a syndicate.
That's the allegation presented, but it doesn't stop there. The network, this alleged syndicate, also includes law enforcement officers,
Which was?
members of SAPS, the police service itself, Metro Police, and even correctional services personnel.
Wow. Okay, so police, prison officer.
And it gets wider. Also allegedly involved are prosecutors in Hoang province.
Prosecutors.
Yes. And even, quote, the judiciary.
Members of the judiciary. Judges. Magistrates.
The briefing just says the judiciary. And according to MKHWANAZI, all these different entities, politicians, law enforcement, prosecutors, judiciary, are reportedly controlled by the drug cartel as well as business people.
Controlled by drug cartels and business interests. This is huge.
It's massive. And Commissioner MKHWANAZI stated very explicitly in his briefing that this investigation, the one in Hoang that uncovered this alleged high-level syndicate,
Yes.
that this work overstepped their mandate, which was supposed to be just KZN political killings. And that, he claims, was the true reason that the team was disbanded, not anything to do with their actual KZN work.
So the argument is they weren't disbanded for failing. They were disbanded because they were succeeding too well in uncovering something much bigger, something potentially implicating powerful people outside of KZN.
That's precisely the implication drawn in the briefing, that their success in Hoang and unmasking this alleged syndicate triggered the shutdown.
The sheer scale of that alleged syndicate, reaching into Parliament, the police, prosecutors, the judiciary. It's incredibly unsettling. I mean, it suggests a systemic rot, doesn't it? A fundamental challenge to the rule of law itself.
Absolutely. If these allegations are true, it strikes at the very heart of the justice system's integrity.
Let's try and focus on some specific individuals mentioned in this, because the briefing named names, right?
Yeah.
Particularly the Minister of Police and someone called his associate, a Mr. Brown-Matzi.
Yes, the briefing detailed a series of alleged connections involving them, and they are, well, deeply concerning if accurate.
Okay, walk us through them. What's the alleged connection with this Brown-Matzi?
Well, first, there's the issue of his alleged access to classified police information. This is quite striking.
How's that?
In September 2024, the briefing states, Brown-Matzi sent WhatsApp messages to Commissioner MKHWANAZI himself.
Okay.
The messages were about a supposed plot to charge you, meaning MKHWANAZI, and Matzi allegedly attached a police letter and even a copy of an occurrence book entry.
An occurrence book. That's like the daily police station diary, isn't it? Strictly internal.
Exactly. It's a police register. Should only be accessed by officers, yet Motzi, who isn't a police officer, allegedly had it and sent it to the commissioner.
That's a huge red flag right there. How would a civilian get that?
That's the question. And there's more. He also allegedly sent MKHWANAZI a screenshot. It was from a classified crime intelligence policy presentation dated September 30th, 2024.
Classified crime intelligence material sent via WhatsApp by a civilian.
According to the briefing, yes. And when MKHWANAZI asked him about the presentation's scope, Motzi apparently replied, "General Khan will brief you next week." He also allegedly messaged about the minister, saying, "The minister is briefed. He has just arrived in Legis." Legis was the scene of a mass murder the minister had just visited.
So this associate, Motzi, seems to be right in the loop on classified intelligence, operational details, even the minister's movements and briefings, despite not being police.
That's the picture painted. It suggests extraordinary access.
Okay. What about the minister himself? Any direct links alleged?
Well, there are the minister's own statements, which appear contradictory according to the briefing.
Oh.
On March 5th, 2025, during a presentation to a parliamentary committee, the minister specifically denied knowing Brown Motzi.
Denied knowing him, okay.
But then, just a few weeks later, March 30th, 2025, there was a phone conversation posted on the social media platform X under the handle @LordK.
Right.
In that recording, the minister allegedly confirmed that Brown Motzi was, in fact, his comrade from the Northwest Province.
So a public denial to Parliament, then a private acknowledgement of a connection.
That's the apparent contradiction highlighted. And then the connection seemed to get even more complex with another individual. Vmusik Matlala, also known as Kat Matlala.
Malala. Who is he?
He was arrested on May 14th, 2025 for attempted murder, 3 counts.
Okay, arrested for attempted murder. And the connection is?
Evidence allegedly recovered from Matlala's cell phone after his arrest revealed communication between Matlala, this Brown Motzi, and the Minister of Police.
The 3 of them communicating. The minister, his associate, and this man arrested for attempted murder.
That's the allegation. And there's a crucial piece of context about Matlala. In 2024, he was awarded a police contract.
A contract with SAPS.
Yes, worth over 360 million rand.
360 million. For a police contract, given to someone later arrested for attempted murder who was communicating with the minister.
That's the sequence of events presented. The layers here are becoming incredibly complex, as you say.
Yeah, complex and deeply worrying. What else did Matlala's phone allegedly reveal?
The analysis of his electronic communication, according to the briefing, indicated that Matlala was financially supporting the Minister of Police and Mr. Brown Motzi's political endeavors.
Financially supporting them. How?
The briefing mentions supporting evidence from conversations and actual proof of payments.
Payments for what?
Things like guests for January 8 traveling cost. January 8th is often linked to ANC anniversary celebrations and also a Ghana dinner in Cape Town in 2025. Specific examples were cited.
So alleged financial ties between this contractor and the minister and his associate.
Yes, and some specific messages are highlighted. One from Brown Motzi to Matlala on January 1st, 2025.
New Year's Day.
Right. It apparently stated, "I have arranged a meeting for Sibia and the minister. They must have a solution." Sibia is another name mentioned, seemingly another associate.
Okay.
And critically, the message continues, "The task team that came to your house and harassed you have been dissolved. They got the letter on Monday. As we speak, they are bringing all docket to Spear."
Wait, the task team dissolved. This is January 1st. When was the official letter?
The official letter disbanding the team was apparently issued by the minister on December 31st, 2024.
The day before.
Exactly. So this message suggests Matlala was being informed immediately via Motzi that the task team investigating cases potentially linked to him, or harassing him as the message puts it, was gone.
That timing is incredibly suggestive.
It is. There's another message cited from Brown Motzi to the minister this time on January 26, 2025. It referred to the guy the funding, in bracket 20, is also in drawback from Tuesday. He is the one I said has a $3 billion contract with subs.
Guy of the funding? Possibly referring to Matlala. And a 3 billion rand contract. That's huge.
The briefing implies the connection. Motzi also allegedly messaged the minister about meeting the DNC, Deputy National Commissioner, and Chief of Staff for finalization of Kumalo and General Muanatsi's matter. Khumalo and MKHWANAZI are other names mentioned, possibly other officials or figures involved.
So MKHWANAZI seemingly coordinating meetings at the highest levels regarding personnel matters and funding sources allegedly linked to Malala.
That's the inference from the messages presented. And reinforcing the idea that Malala was quickly informed on January 2nd, 2025, just one day after MKHWANAZI told him the team was dissolved.
Yes.
Malala allegedly received a copy of the actual PKTT disbandment letter directly from Brown MKHWANAZI.
He got the official letter the day after it was issued from MKHWANAZI.
That's the claim. And further messages show MKHWANAZI reminding Malala on January 14th, 2025 to work on your invoices.
Invoices for the police contract.
Presumably, because the very next day, Malala allegedly sent MKHWANAZI a screenshot of an invoice he had just submitted to SAPS.
So what does this all mean then? You piece it together. You have this major police contractor, Malala, arrested for serious crime.
Yes.
He's allegedly communicating with the Minister of Police and this associate, Brown MKHWANAZI.
Right.
MKHWANAZI seems to have incredible access to classified information and operational details.
Apparently so.
Malala is allegedly providing financial support for political activities.
That's the allegation.
And crucially, Malala is informed, almost in real time by MKHWANAZI, about the disbandment of the very police task force whose investigations might have impacted him, a disbandment ordered by the minister. MKHWANAZI even helps with invoices for Malala's massive police contract.
When you lay it out like that.
It paints an extremely troubling picture, doesn't it? It suggests a potential network where official duties, private financial interests, political support, and the course of justice itself might be dangerously intertwined.
Deeply intertwined. It raises fundamental questions about integrity at the highest levels, based on the evidence presented in that briefing.
And the allegations of interference didn't stop just with the disbandment, did they? There were other instances mentioned.
No, the briefing outlined further alleged attempts to interfere with police work and the justice system more broadly.
Like what?
Well, going back a bit to December 6th, 2024, the PKTT was in the process of arresting a high-profile member of one of these syndicates.
Okay, a major arrest operation.
Yes. And during this operation, unusual activities were observed. Specifically, SAPS members were dispatched, apparently under the command of a senior manager from head office, seemingly to interrupt the operation.
To stop the arrest.
That was the perception. Fortunately, according to the briefing, when these other officers arrived and realized it was a legitimate high-level police operation, they backed off and allowed it to proceed. But the initial attempt to interfere was noted.
So someone tried to use police resources to potentially stop other police from making a key arrest.
That's the implication. Then there's a letter from the minister on December 31st, 2024. We know it disbanded the PKTT,
Right.
but it also suspended the filling of vacancies within crime intelligence.
Suspended filling crime intelligence posts. Why?
The briefing doesn't state the minister's reason, but it highlights the consequence. KwaZulu-Natal was left without a permanent crime intelligence leader, and it impacted the national command structure, too, weakening intelligence capacity at a critical time.
Convenient timing, perhaps. What else?
There was also something described as an unprecedented peace talk.
A peace talk.
Between who?
The minister invited Commissioner MKHWANAZI and the Deputy National Commissioner CIA, the same one who directed the docket removal, to his official residence for this peace talk.
Why unprecedented?
Well, MKHWANAZI's reaction, as stated in the briefing, explains why. He found it highly problematic. His quote was, "There can never be peace between a criminal and the police officer."
Wow. That is a direct, unambiguous statement. He's essentially framing one side of that peace talk as criminal.
It's a very stark framing, yes. Suggesting he saw the meeting not as reconciliation, but potentially as an attempt to improperly influence or neutralize him.
Okay. Any other bodies involved?
Yes, the Investigating Directorate Against Corruption, the IDC. Their involvement is also flagged as questionable in the briefing.
The IDC. What did they do?
First, on May 30th, 2025, they requested exhibits taken from Malala's cell phone, the contractor we discussed.
Okay. They wanted the evidence. Maybe for their own investigation.
Perhaps. But then, on June 25th, 2025, the IDC arrested the PKTT's project coordinator.
They arrested one of the key members of the task team while all this is going on.
Yes, and Commissioner MKHWANAZI explicitly questioned the IDC's role here. They were apparently investigating allegations of a manipulation of a vetting process, and this investigation was reportedly initiated at the request of the Minister of Police.
The minister asked the IDC to investigate the PKTT's coordinator.
That's the sequence presented. MKHWANAZI questioned whether investigating vetting manipulation falls under the IDC's mandate, which is supposed to be focused on state capture and high-level corruption. Is this really their lane, or are they being used?
That's a fair question. Is the IDC being directed to target the investigators who uncovered the syndicate?
That seems to be the concern raised. And adding to that concern is the mention of a specific individual appointed within the IDC investigation, Mr. Pade.
Pade. Who is he?
According to the briefing, he's a former crime intelligence member who retired and then joined the IDC. He's now referred to as a lead investigator on this matter.
Okay.
But the briefing claims he has no qualification, no investigative experience at all. And yet, a magistrate apparently directed that any access required to crime intelligence must go specifically through him.
An unqualified investigator, allegedly, put in charge of accessing sensitive intelligence, potentially related to the very syndicate the PKTT was exposing.
That's the deeply worrying picture presented by MKHWANAZI.
Taken together, these actions, interrupting arrests, suspending intelligence appointments, the peace talk, using the IDC to investigate the investigators, appointing questionable personnel. If true, this looks less like isolated incidents and more like a pattern. A systemic effort to undermine, disrupt, and perhaps control the very institutions meant to uphold law and order.
It suggests the potential capture of key levers within the justice and security apparatus used to protect certain interests rather than pursue justice. It really challenges the foundational trust you need to have in these bodies.
And the consequences are already playing out, aren't they? What are the latest developments?
Yes, things are still moving. As mentioned, Vmusic Metlala's massive R$360 million contract with SAPS that was canceled by the National Commissioner on May 13, 2025.
Okay, so some action was taken against him contract-wise.
Yes. But interestingly, the very next day, May 14th, Metlala allegedly sent that message to Brown Matzi.
The one expressing frustration.
Exactly. Complaining about being ignored and significantly threatening to take all these to media and some to court. He specifically mentioned having recorded conversations.
Recorded conversations, potentially explosive.
Potentially. It suggests he might have felt abandoned and was ready to expose things if pushed further.
Any other recent events?
Yes, just recently, on June 26, 2025, a key accused person was granted bail. His name is Katiso KTMF.
And his significance.
He was arrested by the PKTT for the murder of a Mr. Swart of QEK. QEK seems to be another case identifier. So someone arrested by the team for murder is now out on bail amidst all this turmoil.
It's incredibly complex, isn't it? And it's unfolding so rapidly, like watching a thriller. But these are real people, real institutions, and the stakes for South Africa are incredibly high.
Absolutely. And Commissioner MKHWANAZI's core message, cutting through all this complexity, is really quite clear and powerful.
What's the takeaway from him?
He remains adamant. The disbandment of his political killings task team was directly influenced by their effective work in howing, by their success in starting to uncover that massive alleged criminal syndicate. It wasn't about their KZN performance at all.
They flew too close to the sun, essentially.
That's the strong suggestion. But despite everything, the challenges, the attempts to disrupt their work, the withdrawal of dockets, even the arrest of their own coordinator, he states the political killings task team remains operational.
Still functioning. Even after all that.
Apparently so. And crucially, he says, a formal criminal investigation has now been registered. An investigation into the infiltration and control of the criminal justice system by the organized crime.
So they're officially investigating the very syndicate they believe tried to shut them down.
That seems to be the case. And he finished his briefing with this really powerful call to action directed at law enforcement colleagues.
What did he say?
He urged them to stand up and protect our people, and very pointedly, to choose justice.
Choose justice. That's quite a statement in this context. It speaks volumes about the pressures and choices people within the system might be facing.
It really does. It underscores the perceived battle lines within the system itself.
That message of resilience, though, that commitment to keep fighting for justice, despite what sounds like overwhelming odds and interference, allegedly reaching the highest levels, it's quite remarkable. It shows incredible bravery.
It's a testament to the idea that even within potentially compromised systems, there can be individuals and units still deeply committed to their mandate, to upholding their oath.
So reflecting on all of this deep dive, we've looked at these really serious allegations. A sophisticated criminal syndicate, potentially involving politicians, police, prosecutors, judiciary, all controlled by cartels and business. We've seen the disbandment of a highly successful task force right after it started exposing this. We've heard about alleged interference, financial ties, contradictory statements.
It really does raise some profound questions, doesn't it? For you, the listener, think about this. What does it mean for public trust? For the very foundations of a justice system, when allegations this pervasive, this detailed, about high-level criminal infiltration come to light?
Yeah, how does it impact accountability? How does it affect governance when the institutions meant to protect you are themselves allegedly compromised?
It's a critical question for any democracy.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. In a world not just in South Africa, but anywhere, where those lines between political power, big economic interest, and outright criminal enterprise can sometimes seem worryingly blurred. What does it actually take for a society to clean house? And perhaps more personally, how can individual integrity, like that shown by MKHWANAZI and his team potentially, how can that prevail against its seemingly formidable forces?
That's the challenge, isn't it? A question worth pondering.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive for this look into a very complex and ongoing situation.